A homeless man stole approximately $3,000 from another homeless man after a fight while the pair was drinking vodka and lying in the bushes. What is going on in Bellevue, Washington? It's a perfect example of how housing first does not work. Let's get into it. Here we go. So I've been following, there's a homeless shelter, newer homeless shelter, a couple of years old in Eastgate, which is to the south of where I live. It's a Bellevue address. It's on I-90 going east and west, goes, past the mountains, and it's an interstate, goes east, right? So there's been all kinds of criminal activity coming from the Eastgate area. And it's because this homeless shelter went in. Now we've got murder shenanigans, and the dude is on the loose. Let's read it. Murder suspect remains at large after killing homeless man near Bellevue shelter. Charges. Well, yeah, charges. I mean, you're gonna have some charges. 28-year-old man was staying at a Bellevue homeless shelter, has been charged with murder and robbery for the beating death of a man in a makeshift campsite at a nearby office park in late July. So neither of these guys were in the homeless shelter, but they're in the bushes of an office complex next door? Okay. All right. Hey, let's take a quick peek at what does this look like. This is what the homeless get to live in Bellevue, Washington. Does that look nice? Oh, hell yes. Hell yes. Got some territorial views to the north and east and a little bit to the northwest from the northern side. We are looking due north. Interstate 90, I-90 is right behind us. I live up over in this direction. I kind of live a few miles to the north and east of this, but I oftentimes will come past this building with my truck taking a load to the dump. The dump is kind of right behind this building. So I'm intimately familiar where this is and what's going on. Now, the big complaint has been that since this homeless shelter went into place, there's just been a massive spike in crime. And it's true. I mean, and that's the thing. If you are taking people off the streets that are committing crimes in homeless encampments, why wouldn't they do that same thing when they get put into shelter? Well, they do. And the criminal activity is a perfect example of that. So then we move on. I already talked about drinking vodka and lying in the bushes. All right, so this is a no-barrier shelter. Hey, come on in, guys. Come on in, guys. It's all good. It's all good. The defendant has not yet been captured for this offense, King County Senior Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Anthony Albany Burns wrote. Hitchcock beat the victim to death for the money in his pockets and told him he was an idiot for having the money on him as he beat him to death. Let me read that again. Hey, we've got a low barrier, no barrier shelter coming to your community, and we're going to talk about one that's on the Kirkland-Bellevue border. We've got a low barrier shelter, but it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. We monitor the situation. We provide security. He beat the victim to death for the money in his pockets, which was substantial, $3,000, and told him he was an idiot for having the money on him as he beat him to death. Does that sound safe? Does that sound like something you want in your community? Nobody wants it. Nobody deserves to be beaten to death. But when you have housing first as your, the way that you run your homelessness, well, if we just take these people and put them in housing, everything's going to be great. Sometimes that doesn't work out. And this story is a perfect example of not working out for a dude who will never wake up again because he's dead. He was beaten to death by another homeless man. According to court filings, Hitchcock had extensive police contacts leading up to the murder. You don't say. Weird. That is strange. I don't know. I have concerns about him, but he seems fine. Come on in. Including multiple arrests in Seattle for assault, unlawful use of a weapon, and harassment. So he's just not a good dude. Not a good dude. He's a lowlife. He's a murdering lowlife. Let's bring him into Bellevue. Let's put him in our housing first. What could go wrong? The staff at Porchlight Homeless Shelter, which is run by Plymouth, whatever. Plymouth, we don't really give a crap about your neighborhood. Staff at Porchlight Homeless Shelter told investigators that Hitchcock had been referred to them by the crisis connections, the charges allege. Yeah, they're shuffling homeless people around. That's what they do. Oh, yeah, we've got room for him here. It's going to be great. The victim, Jason Clark, 54, had also been staying at Porchlight, investigators found. A witness to the fatal beating said he and Clark had been kicked out of the shelter and were sleeping outside in the area. Now, this homeless complex is, it's on kind of a steep road. So you go uphill a little bit to the east, just a little bit. You're walking along. There's I-90 right there. And you've got a whole bunch of office complexes. And then further up, you've got auto dealerships. And past that, you got Dairy Queen. Oh, so good. Get a peanut butter parfait. So, had been staying at Portlight. Investigators found a witness to the fatal had been kicked out of the shelter. Yeah, you guys are troublemakers, and we need you out. So they can't even stay within the confines of a no-barrier housing shelter. Yeah, what does that tell you? This is a free-for-all. These things are a free-for-all. Everybody knows it. The witness told police that Sammy, later identified as Hitchcock, had spilled alcohol on Clark while he was lying in the bushes, which caused them to start arguing. Yeah, I don't particularly want to have alcohol, poured on me, especially vodka. You get that in your eye? Ugh. That is tough stuff. The argument escalated, and the witness reported that Clark was on his back and unable to get up. Oh, all right. Yeah, so you beat the crap out of him. An autopsy report found Clark died from lethal blunt force injuries to the head and neck. Housing first. Oh, awesome. Lethal blunt force injuries to the head and neck. Coming soon to a neighborhood complex near you. Housing first? Oh, yeah. Great. The witness said Hitchcock offered him some of the money he took from Clark before leaving the area. Here's a 20 for your troubles. You feeling okay? The witness also said Hitchcock offered to call Clark an ambulance because he did not look okay. He had just been what eventually became known as beaten to death, and he did not look okay. Housing first, coming soon to you. It's going to be great. Clark's dead body was found later in the morning by a security guard for the office complex. Caseworker at the Porchlight Shelter told police that she had driven Clark to an ATM a few weeks earlier, where he withdrew the money and later paid a $200 bill at a storage facility. How's this guy have $3,000 on him? I mean, there's some great unknowns here. There are some great unknowns. It's like, what? We're doing what? You're staying in a homeless complex, but you got $3,000 in your pocket. You've been kicked out of the facility. You're drinking vodka in the bushes, and you get murdered. Okay. All right. Okay. That's shenanigans, folks. That is some shenanigans. These are shenanigans of the highest degree because somebody lost their life, just like Charlie Kirk. Horrible. Horrific. Right? Murder. Yeah, this is what's going on. Court records show Hitchcock had connections to Oregon. Perfect. Oh, that's Portland? Do I hear Portland? Maybe Eugene. Maybe he's from Eugene. Anyone has information, yada, yada. Here we go. Here we go. Search for the murder suspect from Jeremy Harris. Let's see how this is going.
Yeah, Steve, people here in the area tell me the victim was known to camp in the bushes outside of this office park, and the suspect was a regular at a nearby supportive housing facility.
Mm-hmm.
Police are hoping
the
public can help them locate that suspect quickly. It was early in the morning when a security guard making the rounds at this Bellevue office park found a person sleeping behind these bushes. They called police, and officers found a 54-year-old man who was severely beaten and had died.
We were able to narrow it down to, the suspect that we're still looking for right now.
Captain Landon Barnwell leads the investigation section at Bellevue Police, where investigators identified the suspect as 28-year-old Samuel Hitchcock.
It's been a week since the incident, but we still want the public's help. We will look at everything that people will provide to us to see if, to hopefully locate this individual very soon.
While detectives look for Hitchcock, people we spoke with say,
That dude's gone. Where is he? Is he California? Is he Oregon? Yeah, he's gone. He is not hanging out in Bellevue. Well, I got some murder charges going on, but you know what? I'll just hang tight here. Maybe they won't recognize me. They're drug-addled and they are whacked out of their minds, but they are not absolutely stupid relative to their own personal incarceration probability. So, if they're going to go to the can, out they go. Boop, gone. They get on the metro and they ride the bus, Gus. Mm-hmm.
He was a regular at this nearby supportive housing center, which provides rooms to the formerly homeless. The victim died less than a block from here.
When you're allowing people to do fentanyl and whatever other drugs they want in their housing, you're going to have problems.
Al Rosenthal has been a critic of the group that runs the facility, saying they are too permissive with drug use. Those concerns were echoed by people we spoke with who work in the area.
One thing that would be expensive, but you could have a police officer parked in a car outside the facility 24/7. That would help.
This is Bellevue's first.
Or you could require them to enter a treatment program, and if they're doing the drugs and they're drinking the hooch in the bushes, out they go. It sounds like these guys were already there. So you let you let some dudes in that, do this kind of thing. So if this is what you want coming to your community, you know what? Say yes in my backyard to this type of housing. It's going to work out just fine.
First homicide of the year, and detectives are hoping to track down Hitchcock quickly.
Want the public to be vigilant and hopefully, again, help us capture this individual.
He's gone.
Now, the victim here, 54-year-old Jason Clark, an autopsy report revealed that he died from blunt force trauma to the head and the neck. Police are hoping to get some tips about the location of Hitchcock. Those can be made anonymously, both to Crime Stoppers and to Bellevue Police.
Yeah. They're not finding that guy.
Well, good evening and welcome to The Spotlight. Thank you for joining us. I'm David Rose. Tonight, we are shining a spotlight on a controversial plan to house the homeless in a former motel. In 2022, Keene County announced the purchase of the La Quinta Inn in Kirkland to provide permanent housing for the homeless. Last summer, Plymouth Housing was chosen to operate it when it opens in
That's ours.
of this year.
Yep.
The motel is located on Northup Way in the Houghton neighborhood, right on the border of Bellevue, where Plymouth already runs a similar housing development in the Eastgate neighborhood called the Plymouth Crossing Apartments. The most recent Houghton Neighborhood Housing Association meeting, neighbors heard from a Plymouth representative who touted their success with providing housing to those in need.
And the gentleman in this photo, Michael, had lost his job and was living out of his RV in Redmond. Year before last, he moved into Plymouth Crossing, our building in Bellevue. He receives on-site clinical support tailored to his health needs, and this on-site support, combined with the more stable living environment, has given him a solid base to manage his health and plan for the future.
Well, that is great news, and they do put a roof over the heads of almost 1,400 people in Keene County. But with that comes an increased need for law enforcement services. For example, take the number of police calls for service at Plymouth Crossing in Bellevue. They have increased dramatically, from 5 in the second half of 2023 compared to 148 in 2024.
5 to 148? What kind of an increase is that? Percentage-wise, somebody do the math. Let me know in the comments. That is nuts. But that is what you get when you have a housing first, homeless community, permanent housing type situation come to your hood. And that's why the folks in Kirkland that the story is all about have sued. And they basically are like, no, we don't want that in our community. We don't want the no or low barrier system of housing first to come to our community because they are so detrimental. Bring in the crime, bring in the stealing from the community, purchasing and selling of stolen goods, sex trafficking, you name it. You get it all when you bring one of these in, because that's what they were doing out in the streets when they were living in tents in Seattle. And they're going to do the same thing in their comfort of their own room with shower, meals. You got it. You betcha. With zero requirements. I shouldn't say zero. Almost no requirements to their staying in that facility.
Within a half-mile radius of the apartments, police calls for service increased from 609 to 1,082. Data like that causing concern for neighbors in Kirkland who are worried about safety issues because La Quinta is near a number of schools. They want drug use in the rooms to be prohibited, fearing if it's not, it will bring drug dealers to the neighborhood and lead to a rise in car prowls and burglaries.
Yep.
Plymouth Housing says they are committed to being a good neighbor, but believes everyone is entitled to privacy in their own home, and they will not.
F that. If it's on the taxpayer dollar, F that. No. No. That is brain dead ideology. That is brain dead. You're allowing people to kill themselves. Get them on the track. You got fentanyl. These aren't dudes just smoking the weed. They're not smoking the doobie. They're smoking fentanyl. They're shooting up speed. They're doing the heroin. They're doing the hooch. They're doing the dope. And this is the kind of activity you get. Let's keep going.
Require tenants to accept drug treatment. But what about a tenant with a long criminal history, arrested for a whole slew of new crimes? Do they deserve free housing?
In total, I see 57 warrants since 2013, 3 active warrants out of 3 separate jurisdictions in my latest review of jobs, which was this morning.
Richard Julius is currently a resident of the King County Jail. He's been there since February 21st. Before that, he was living rent-free at the Plymouth Crossing Apartments in Bellevue, where court documents show him coming and going after allegedly committing multiple crimes, including car thefts and 5 counts of ID theft for using victims' stolen credit cards. Police say he's a danger to the public after he was arrested for attempting to elude a pursuing police vehicle.
Page 20 of the PC cert describes Mr. Julius driving recklessly and ramming police cars in an effort to escape.
Bellevue PD Detective Jeff Christensen provided some additional detail on the pursuit.
That happened in the middle of the day around noon, when he fled at high speed from marked patrol units after being confronted.
Perfect. Perfect.
It was noted that multiple civilians and vehicles had to swerve out of the way to avoid a head-on collision.
Okay.
Police say they tied Julius to multiple stolen vehicles recovered in the parking lot of his apartment complex, even though Section 18 of his lease agreement says tenants shall not engage in or permit unlawful activities.
At this time, defense is asking the court to consider releasing Mr. Julius to CCAP enhanced or electronic home detention. Mr. Julius does have a place to stay.
Judge Brian McDonald denied that request.
Good.
So I don't have any confidence he'll abide by court orders and not interfere with the administration of justice.
So
Good.
How did a felon with such a long criminal history end up with free housing? In a statement, Plymouth says, residents are screened for history of sex offenses, history with Plymouth Housing, and potentially other criminal histories depending on local laws. Any history that would make an individual ineligible to live at a particular building or raises significant and serious safety concerns would result in a denial. Based on that, it would appear his convictions for assault, ID theft, reckless driving, attempt to elude, drugs, and attempted forgery was not enough to deny him housing. Plymouth says it's important to understand why some people who experienced homelessness might have a criminal record in the first place.
Because they're criminals and they belong in jail, not in housing. How hard is this to figure out? It's not that hard. It's pretty basic stuff. That guy's a criminal. He belongs in prison. Put him where he should be, and let's call it good. That's what's called actually administering public safety. 2 difficult words, I know, for the left. Public safety. Public safety.
Crime often occurs when people lack the resources to meet their basic needs, like how
Meet their basic needs. What a bunch of bullshit. These guys are criminals. These guys are absolute criminals. And you're giving them free housing and letting them do their drugs. And you're giving them an ecosystem to make that happen. on the taxpayer dime. Perfect. That's awesome.
Housing, food, and safety. At Plymouth, we provide stability to move people out of this cycle. Or in the case of Richard Julius, a safe and free place for his base of operations. When the Houghton Neighborhood Association learned about his history, a spokesperson wrote, "A tenant who has 57 warrants issued is shocking and unacceptable. That should be front page news." And added, "While I fully understand that Plymouth wants the best environment for their residents, this cannot play out in the vicinity of schools, daycares, and businesses when it comes to individuals with mental or drug challenges. Too many residents and business owners have been hurt by problems around such facilities." When asked about what steps are taken when a tenant like Julius is charged with multiple crimes, Plymouth Housing writes, "At Plymouth, we believe that everyone deserves a place to heal and that people are capable of change. If a
Tell that to the family of the dude who got murdered in the bushes with $3K in his pocket, soon to be stolen while drinking vodka with his homeless buddy who killed him. Are they capable of change? How'd that work out for that 54-year-old individual? Not all that well, did it? No, it didn't.
a current resident were to become involved in the criminal justice system, staff would engage with them to address potential underlying causes of the behavior as best they can. Plymouth and residents both have rights and responsibilities that must be respected. Any decisions on tenancy would involve consideration of building safety and what is permissible under the law.
What about the community? What about the community? About that? Oh, yeah, he's concerned about our tenants and building safety and permissible under the law.
So, with Richard Julius's trial coming up, has he been evicted? The Plymouth Housing lease agreement only says there has to be a preponderance of evidence to evict a tenant, not a conviction. When I asked, their spokesperson would only say that out of respect for the privacy of tenants, they do not comment on individual residents' circumstances.
In other words, he's still there. Because if he wasn't there, they'd say, oh, he's gone. That bastard is gone. He is so gone. But that's not the case, is it? Not the case. So there you go. There is the saga of Housing First in Bellevue and Kirkland, Washington. Got a couple of projects up and running. Criminal activity, it's on the spike. You know what I always say? Podcasts for days, weeks, months, into the decades, because this is all based upon leftist ideology that does not work. What we're talking about today is Housing First and harm reduction, which is basically give them everything but the drugs and maybe it'll work out. Yeah, it's not working out for these communities, is it? You got a murder. You got a dude with how many arrests? 57? I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he's a good individual deep down. He's good. He's going to turn the corner on being a better guy sometime. Maybe. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.